Today we're going to talk about some basic chemistry. The goal of this video is to draw a model of an atom and identify the number of subatomic particles within the atom. First, what is an atom? An atom is the smallest unit of an element that still has the element's properties. Now, to really understand that definition, you need to know what an element is. An element is just a pure substance. An example of a pure substance would be gold or even helium. Helium is a gas, gold is something that's solid. Both of them are considered pure substances, and all we mean by pure is all of the atoms of the element are identical. So this picture illustrates this nicely. The cube represents an element, and notice that the element is made up of many atoms, but every single atom is identical. Okay, now let's talk about the components of an atom. An atom has subatomic particles in it. That's what it consists of. And there are three types of subatomic particles. The first is a proton. Protons have a positive charge. The second is a neutron. Neutrons have a neutral charge. And the last is an electron. Electrons have a negative charge. So those are the three subatomic particles that make up an atom. Now, you can draw an atom using these two basic rules. First, the protons and the neutrons are found in the center of the atom. The center of an atom is called the nucleus. The second rule is electrons should be drawn in the shells or orbitals. And these are the rings in this picture, the rings going around the nucleus. Those are called shells or orbitals. It goes by both names. And the electrons are drawn on those rings. Now, those are the two basic rules of how to draw an atom. Protons and neutrons are in the nucleus. Electrons are found in the orbitals or the shells. Now, there's one additional thing you need to know about how to draw an atom, and that's this rule about how many electrons can be placed on these rings or these shells. Okay, so the rule is the first shell, that's the shell that's closest to the nucleus. The first shell can only hold 2 electrons. That's its maximum that it can hold. The second and the third shells can hold up to 8 electrons. It doesn't have to reach 8, but it just can't hold more than 8. So keep that in mind as you draw an atom. One further definition you need to know is valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell. So in this picture, there's an outer ring that has 8 electrons in it. So in this case, for this atom, I have 8 valence electrons. Now, if I ask you to draw an atom, how do you figure out how many protons and neutrons and electrons that atom has? Well, here's an example. On the periodic table, you will see little boxes like the one you see here. And inside the box, it will name an element like carbon. Inside the box, you will see 2 numbers. The number on top is the atomic number. And the atomic number tells you the number of protons. So in this case, carbon has 6 protons. The number on the bottom is the atomic mass. And when you look at that mass in your head, you need to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so 12.011, that's an average. But when we're trying to figure out how many protons and neutrons this element is going to have, we need to round that number in our head. So 12.011 would round to 12. Okay, here's why the atomic mass is important. The atomic mass is going to tell you the number of protons and the number of neutrons that you have in that element. Okay, so we already know the number of protons that we have. We have 6. We figured that out from the atomic number. But what you need to know is that the number of protons plus the number of neutrons equals the atomic mass. So in your head, think I have 6 protons plus some number of neutrons that I'm trying to figure out equals 12. 6 plus something equals 12. That something is the number of neutrons. How many would that be? It would have to be 6. 6 plus 6 equals 12. Last, we need to figure out how to find the number of electrons. The number of electrons is going to be equal to the number of protons unless the atom has a charge, which in this case, I've not said anything about the atom having a charge. And for this video's purposes, we're just going to keep things simple and assume that the atom doesn't have a charge. So when that's the case, the number of protons just equals the number of electrons. So if I have 6 protons, I have 6 electrons. Okay, so putting that all together, carbon has 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. Remember when I told you to draw an atom, you have to put the protons and the neutrons in the nucleus. So this gray circle represents the nucleus, and I've written 6p+. The p+ stands for a proton, and I've written 6 n with a 0, and the n with a 0 stands for 6 neutrons. Okay, so those are both placed in the nucleus. Now it's time to draw the electrons. I have 6 electrons total, but remember the rule: only 2 of those electrons can fit in the first shell. So I draw 2 dots on that first shell, the first ring. That's the maximum. So I've already used 2. I'm trying to get to a total of 6. So then how many do I need to draw in this outer shell? I have to draw 4. 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. So in this case, I've got 6 protons in my nucleus, 6 neutrons in my nucleus, and I have a total of 6 electrons. However, there's only 4 valence electrons, because remember, valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell. So in summary, you can now draw an atom by placing protons and neutrons in the nucleus and putting the electrons on the shells or orbitals